Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing to take a look at the next week's slate, heading back out to the Pac-12, Washington State, heading on the road to play the Washington Huskies, Apple Cup, a game that's always, as an East Coast guy, one of the games that you love watching at the end of the year. And the Washington Huskies, one of the best teams in college football. We've kind of been banging the table for that the last couple of weeks. The Washington State Cougars, although kind of a roller coaster of a ride of a season, right? Started out 4-0, lost 6 straight, up and down team, but a team that is extremely dangerous and can put up a lot of points any given Saturday. This is going to be a good one. Two of the most talented quarterbacks that you see in the country in Cam Ward and Michael Penix. Excited to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out to the Pac-12 fans. I mean, this is a conference that we've loved talking about all year. The amount of support you guys have shown the boys, it really does mean a lot. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear from you guys. Picks, predictions, keys to the game in the comment section. We'll chop it up there. They're going to give you the T-box here. Cam Ward, Michael Penix, how we feeling?
I think you're completely right to label Washington State as a dangerous team. And we know the Washington Huskies, they're a hammer. They're right up there with anyone. They play a lot more better defense than I think people realize. They play physical. But Washington State, when they play good football, can be really good, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Cam Ward, like, he kind of embodies that up and down nature. Like, when he's on, he's on. When he is not on, he can very not be on.
That's the problem with this Washington State Cougars offense. It's a little bit inconsistent, but when it's consistent, I mean, it's putting up 45 points against a really good Oregon State defense. Like, that is the ceiling of this Washington State team. Was a top 15 team in the country, a team that I remember talking about week 5 as potential dark horse in the Pac-12, and I still think that's their ceiling. They just haven't always maintained that throughout the year. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball, Dale. Ben Arbuckle, I think, has done a really good job with this offense, but more importantly, Cam Ward, although still has some inconsistencies, you're starting to see him smooth it out a little bit more. And again, a guy that capable on any given Saturday, really lighting up the scoreboard.
And he's just got to play decisive, and the ball's got to come out. Or like when he's on and playing decisive and making quick decisions, very accurate, very live arm, can hit the ball to any part of the field that you want. And these wide receivers can really play too. The problem is when he's holding on to the ball and you start seeing like the walls close in on him and chaos starts to occur, taking too many sacks, too many fumbles, just those mistakes that really are killers, if you will, and too much of that. But again, when he's playing his best ball, very dangerous.
It's been the negative plays for this Washington State team. Like you watch them, they'll pick up a few first downs, and then Cam Ward starts playing not within himself, and you take a 15-yard sack. And these negative plays for Washington State can be really ugly at times, kind of drive killers. And I think that's kind of where you see the inconsistencies with this Washington State team. I think one of the problems with this Cougars offense, yes, they can spread you out, throw it all around the yard, but they really have struggled all year to run the football. And that's really hurt Cam Ward in the passing attack, because the guys like Braylon Trice and ZTF, when you're not really fearing the run, you're just pinning your ears back, getting upfield and try to impact the passer. And that's kind of where Washington State has struggled, only averaging 2.8 yards per carry. That is 132nd in the country.
And you see how good this Washington defense is playing up front now in a real revelation, really something that I think has made this Washington State team, or Washington team, I should say, dangerous, is those defensive tackles led by Tuli and Ulu, really, really, really good players.
Playing ball.
Right. Washington State, just their offensive line it's not a dominant unit. It's not horrible, I wouldn't say. It's not like a problem, but they really don't have that unit that can just go run the ball on a really good defense.
Yeah, and you look at keys to the game. I think the key for Washington on the offense or on the defensive side of the ball is it's obvious. It's create havoc in the backfield. You know, this is a team that throws the ball almost 70% of the time. I believe it's clocking in at 64%. One of the biggest air raids in the country. If you're trying to stop Washington State in this offense, make no mistake about it. It is getting after the passer, forcing Cam Ward off his spot. Because again, when you see him clean pocket, stepping up, stepping into his throws, he's one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the country. But you see, when it breaks down, that's when you get him uncomfortable. Washington needs to be able to do that Saturday night.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think people point to like Washington Huskies sack rate as kind of low. I don't believe in that number. I mean, you see
Yeah.
how disruptive, especially Braylon Trice. I mean, he's playing at such a high level. He's so again, the sacks definitely aren't there for him. But if you're watching these games, you just feel the impact that's there. They do not let quarterbacks play comfortable. On the other side, ZTF is obviously a very good player too, kind of in a similar way. Big, heavy guys who push pockets, collapse them, and they do that up the middle with their big dogs inside. So it's a again, I don't think the stats will show it, obviously, on the sack numbers, but this is a very, very disruptive Husky defense.
That's the ceiling of this team, this Washington Huskies team. If that pass rush can, and it's getting there, you're seeing it get better, and you're seeing that defense take steps. Braylon tries ZTF, and like they're two of the more talented edge rushers in the country. If they can kind of maintain that level of play, like that's what's most dangerous for this Washington Huskies defense. Flipping sides, we're 6 minutes and haven't talked about the best player on the football field. The Washington Huskies on offense, I think, when we talked about it last night, kind of showed something. When it's cold, when it's rainy, and it needs to be a little bit more physical, and it's a little less of a track meet, so to speak, they can win that way too. I mean, Dylan Johnson running the football at an extremely high clip. This offensive line does not get enough credit for how good they are, not only in pass pro, but in the run blocking game. As Washington becomes more two-dimensional, I think that offense, it might not necessarily put up 50 points on the scoreboard, but running the football, keeping that defense fresh, like that is a nice recipe for the Washington Huskies to continue winning games here.
I was really impressed by Dylan Johnson yesterday. Again, you talk about like showing us all something. I mean, the ability to run inside the tackles hard and physical. It's not like he'd never really had to show that at that point. Because again, you look at what Washington was trying to do to most of these teams, it was really control the space of the football game, get guys outside, throw it around, run pitches, run stuff off tackle. Yesterday, it was very much like, oh, you kind of did have to hammer it down in the box because the conditions, again, as you said, forced it. And he ran physically, ran behind his pads. If it was a 3rd and 3 or something, he showed that ability to go take a linebacker on and pick up those first downs. And again, we've talked about this a lot. This Washington offense just has a bunch of guys who kind of have that in them. Those big moments, they make big plays.
Yeah, we talk. I mean, it's a gamer team. Like when it matters and chips are on the table, Washington Huskies are making plays. One of the things I'm looking at, kind of another key to the game here, Washington State, Brennan Jackson, Ron Stone Jr., been there a long time, are really good getting after the passer. You saw it. Colorado just could not block them up front. Good news for Washington. And again, part of what, when you have someone like Michael Penix and Roma Duzne, some of the other players maybe don't get as much attention as they should. The tackle play for the Washington Huskies, it's some of the best in the country. And you look how Washington State wants to get off the field. They want to bring pressure. They want to impact the quarterback with those edge rushers. It's going to be tough against a Washington tackle group that is, I think, again, one of the better units in the country here.
And that really does feel like, again, if those two don't dominate on the edge and they're capable of doing it, like you saw against Arizona, of two very good tackles, were able to, for the most part, control that and not kind of let them dominate or take a game over like they have in a couple other games. You see some vulnerabilities, I think, in Washington State's defense. Again, if he's got time to sling it, that is Michael Penix. I am interested to see if this secondary can hold up in the way I think it needs to, because especially towards the end of the year, it's really starting to get exposed a little bit.
I agree. And as Washington gets back those guys and you get fully healthy, McMillan, Polk, Roma Duzne, Jeremy Bernard, it's just, that's part of like why it's so hard to stop this Huskies offense is there's legitimately, you have an NFL quarterback, 2 NFL tackles, an NFL running back, 4 NFL wide receivers. And when you have that much playmaking ability and you can protect Michael Penix and give him a clean pocket, he's going to pick you apart. And if Washington State can't get Michael Penix off his spot, I mean, he's going to put up some numbers, assuming that it's not 30 degrees and pouring rain, which was in Corvallis last Saturday. So let's get to the pick here. Washington at home, 17-point favorites. Where are you rocking here?
I think Washington State's going to keep this game close enough. I just think this is a ton of points. And again, it's not like a shot at Washington. I just think, again, if Washington State plays a decent football game, I don't think they win this game, but I think they can score enough. I really do like what they have at wideout. When that unit is humming and the ball's getting around quickly and on time, that unit's been really, really good. And I think they can just score enough points to 17's like treating them like they're like Boise State or something. I think they're better than like that type of team.
I like Washington State a lot, and I like them as my mic falls. I like them a lot in terms of like the high upside. Like when this team's playing their best, I'll tell you what, if this team comes out and plays a football, like they're keeping this within 17. The problem with me is Washington just continues to figure out how to win games and play big when the moment's the biggest. You haven't seen enough from that from Washington State, and it's just been too much of a roller coaster. Washington, I set not only at taking care of Washington State, but winning a Pac-12 championship, getting to the college football playoffs. I think they take care of business at home. It's going to be a jumping environment. Apple Cup season. Give me the Huskies to cover the number here at home. Michael Penix, Romaduzny, just a little too much firepower for Washington State defense that really has struggled in the last couple weeks. I'll ride with the Huskies. Going to be a good one. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.